Hi there, welcome back for another episode of Finest Details. We're back again. Today we have some pretty bad news. It was a rough day for a car that isn't even technically in production anymore. A Facebook page named Houston Underground Races posted a photo of three very, very poor Supras. We'll show the photo here. And now, of course, that is quite a sad sight. Three, no miles except for any that were done at the factory. So maybe a couple. Technically, the nicer cars usually end up at dealer lots with a few more miles. Probably letting people test drive them and things like that. So if you see a nicer, newer vehicle, there's a good chance it'll have more miles than, say, your Toyota Camry. But nonetheless, it is pretty rough because that is, if we're going off MSRP, that's $150,000 worth of damage. If we're going by markup price, that's $300,000 of damage, which is, wow, that's quite a lot. Technically, it doesn't cost Toyota $50,000 to make a Supra, but that is a lot of time, resources, and materials that are now wasted. Because whenever something like this happens, these will most definitely be scrapped. Or certain times when a dealership, or not a dealership, a manufacturer has certain issues like this, it's not completely unheard of to have the vehicles just crushed, take the VIN plates off, use them for something else, or just scrap the entire thing completely. Several other people in the industry I have talked to have said that how sometimes when they have a vehicle that hasn't even hit a lot and they scrap it, they'll just take the VIN plate and just throw it on a new one. They're probably just going to scrap these entirely, just crush them, send them away. There are three. That photo only shows the two in the very back. The one in front of that, the first level Supra, the one that has the most damage, did damage one in front of it, and that's rough. Now, as of right now, the cause isn't necessarily known. That truck was just seen driving around. People are making jokes like, oh, didn't he know he backed into something? I can guarantee you the driver of that truck knows exactly what's happened. We don't know if it was his fault. We don't know if something hit him. No idea. If something did hit him, it had to be pretty big, another semi or something. So there had to be that. The biggest thing with something like this is when a brand new vehicle comes out, a brand new model year, and in this case a complete restart of a name, it takes a long time for them to get parts and make new ones and things like that. For an example, when Honda had an issue with the CR-Vs when the new generation came out, they had a recall, but that all went very smoothly because Honda knew about it. But there was certain cases like a woman who had an issue with the engine from factory where it destroyed its valves in the cylinder head. It took 3 months to repair that because they didn't have new valves or spares yet. They were still making brand new vehicles, and it's not quite as easy as call up Honda and say, hey, I need a new set of valves for the CR-V. They don't really stop their production like that. So parts trickled in one at a time for about 3 to 4 months. Every week or so, a new valve would come in, and that was it. That is just, so that's kind of a bit of perspective from the dealership kind of standpoint, where talking with manufacturers and things, it can be very slow. So they're not going to put any time or effort into restoring these vehicles. They're not going to be auctioned off or anything. They're most likely just going to be crushed. Maybe. Sorry about that. Neighbor's dog is out. But it's going to take a minute to replace, especially with things like this. Now, we don't know the supply of the Supra. If it's anything like the big ones that I've talked about in other videos, the 350R, the Honda Civic, certain vehicles like that, where they don't necessarily have a limited run, like something like the Dodge Demon that had 3,000 units. This technically doesn't have a limit, so they're just going to kind of keep producing them, see if people like it. If they don't like it, they'll probably stop sooner. But if they continue to produce it, then we don't know if they're going to have a lot or a high demand, or if they're going to pump out a lot of them, or if they're going to try and keep it fairly exclusive. Most likely that, which means they're not pumping them out. The Civic takes, to get a Civic Type R, even for really big Honda dealerships, it takes a while. They don't have just 8 or 10 of them on the lot. They don't have, a big Honda dealership can have 30, 40, 50 CRVs, and maybe 2 or 3, if that, Type Rs. Some small dealerships will see 1 Type R a year. So for the Supra, it's understandable to think that it will probably be like that. Now, wherever these were headed, it is, I believe, said it was from Hungary, which is kind of interesting. But these 3 Supras may have been, for certain dealerships, the only Supras they were going to get for quite some time if they were headed to a dealership. We don't know their location. If they were headed to a dealership, that might mean release is right around the corner, which would be very interesting, especially with the Corvette being announced as of when this video releases today, since this will come out most likely on the 18th. It might come out the night before, we'll see. But that is kind of something to think about. We'll see if it gets outshined or not. Probably won't. The Supra is kind of special. It's probably going to be its own beast, and technically the Corvette isn't out yet, but people do put allocations down and do prioritize where their money goes. So with, it may not seem a lot. It may just be like, ooh, wow, 3 Supras. That's rough, which it is. There is also the other fact that something like this could be actually quite a bit of an issue for certain parties and things like that. If the dealerships in my area, we'll say Toyota for instance, if they had their Supra damaged in transport to the point where it was irreparable, they would be in a hard spot, especially if that Supra was for someone already. If someone already had that one marked down, that is even worse. That means that that person is going to be oh so mighty mad, especially at the dealership, even though technically they had nothing to do with it. It would be the shipping company. Manufacturers don't ship their own vehicles. There's a third party between dealership and manufacturer, the trucking companies that work their way around the country. So people are definitely going to get blamed. It's not their fault. We don't even know if it's the trucking company's fault. We don't know. We don't know. We don't know. Is it sad to see? Of course it is. It's always sad to see when a car that is loved get hurt, but it happens. So these are most likely going to get scrapped, which is kind of sad because the top one actually doesn't look like it's in that bad a condition. It looks like it's still obviously drivable. It would be probably a lot of fun for those channels that build burned out Hellcats and restoration projects and all that kind of stuff. This would definitely be something for them. But since it's still in transport, it's most likely a goner, which is a shame. So those are my thoughts on the very, very sad day for the crushed Supras, or damaged Supras, soon to be crushed. Yeah, that's all I have on it. I just think it's interesting to hear a little bit of story on how this might affect dealerships and things like that. Not a lot of people know information like this, so I thought it would be an interesting video. We will call it there. Pretty quick little rundown. As always, like, comment, subscribe. If there's anything you'd like to learn about, hear about, things like that, let me know. If there's anything you liked or did not like about this video, let me know. We'll be putting a comment in the bottom of the videos and stuff so that it's easy to be seen and things like that. If you're someone that looks at the comments, you've probably already seen it, and if you've made it this far, thank you very much appreciated. I will see you in the next video.